Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Today, we're getting into some really profound insights. Stuff about faith, divine presence, and, well, restoration. We're pulling together threads from a pretty unique stack of sources. We've got bits from Genesis, Psalms, the Gospel of Matthew, and also this really interesting modern reflection called Restoration in Life. Now, on the surface, maybe they seem a bit disconnected, different times, different genres. But our mission today is to kind of pull out those core ideas, those surprising links that tie them all together.
Exactly. And what we'll see, I think, is how these quite varied accounts, when you've got a patriarch's dream, right, out in the middle of nowhere, and you jump forward to these miracle healings in the New Testament, but they all end up shedding light on these really universal things. Human vulnerability, for one, the search for comfort, for solace, and crucially, the huge impact of trust and belief when you have that encounter with the divine. We're basically looking at how God's presence, his promises, and his healing power show up again and again, just in different contexts.
Okay, great. Let's unpack this then. Starting with that first source, that scene from Genesis, Jacob's journey to Haran. So picture this. Jacob's on the road, sun's going down, he's tired, stops for the night, grabs a stone he finds there, puts it under his head. Maybe not the comfiest pillow, but anyway, he falls asleep. And then he has this incredibly vivid dream.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is just the closeness of it, but also the sheer scale. He sees this stairway, or maybe like a ramp, resting on the ground, but the top reaches right into the heavens. And there are God's messengers, angels, going up and down on it. And then the Lord himself is standing right there beside Jacob. And he gives him these just incredible promises. I, the Lord, am the God of your forefather Abraham and the God of Isaac. He says that the land Jacob's lying on will be his and his descendants, that they'll be as numerous as the dust of the earth, spreading out in all directions, and that through Jacob and his descendants, all nations will find blessing. It's huge. And he adds, know that I am with you. I will protect you wherever you go. I will never leave you until I have done what I promised you. It really is a foundational moment. A divine promise.
What a thing to wake up from. And his reaction when he does wake up is just as powerful, isn't it? He basically says, wow, the Lord is actually here in this spot, and I didn't even know it.
Exactly. That sense of surprise, of unexpected holiness.
And he's filled with awe, saying, how awesome is this shrine? This is God's house, the gateway to heaven. So he takes that stone, the one he slept on, sets it up like a pillar, a memorial, pours oil on it, which is a way of consecrating it, making it sacred. And he renames the place. It was called Luz, but he calls it Bethel, which means
house of God, or God's abode. And that renaming, it's more than just changing a signpost, right? It's about taking this ordinary, maybe even desolate spot in the wilderness and recognizing it, marking it as a place where heaven and earth met, where the divine was present. It sets a kind of precedent.
Okay.
And then Jacob follows this up with a vow. It's interesting. He says, okay, if God stays with me, protects me on this journey, gives me food and clothes, and I get back home safely, then the Lord will be my God. And this stone I've set up, it'll be God's abode. It shows a very human reaction, doesn't it? Almost conditional. If you do this, then I'll do that. It's a commitment, but it's based firmly on those promises of protection and provision he just received.
Right. It feels very transactional almost, like he's processing this huge divine promise in relatable human terms. Okay, bread, clothes, safety, then you're my God. So how does that initial, maybe slightly tentative vow connect to the kind of deep trust we hear about later, say in the Psalms? We've got Psalm 91 in our sources, which is all about refuge, and Psalm 34, which that reflection mentions.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's like Jacob's experience is the seed, maybe. And the Psalms show how that seed of trust grew and was articulated over generations. Psalm 91, for instance, really picks up that theme of God's protection that was promised to Jacob. It talks about people who dwell in the shelter of the Most High, who abide in the shadow of the Almighty.
Shelter and shadow, very protective language.
Exactly. And the psalmist says directly to God, my refuge and my fortress, my God, in whom I trust. It uses these really vivid images, being rescued from traps, from plagues, being covered with his pinions, finding refuge under his wings, like a mother bird protecting her young.
Right.
And it emphasizes this link. Because someone clings to God, because they know his name, God will rescue them. He'll answer when they call out in trouble. It echoes the promise to Jacob, but maybe with a deeper sense of established relationship.
Okay, so it's a maturing of that trust. And then that restoration and life reflection brings in Psalm 34, specifically verse 18. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. That line feels like a perfect bridge, actually, to the stories we have from Matthew's gospel. It really sets the scene.
It really does, because that's where we see this divine presence, this power interacting directly with human brokenness and desperation.
Yeah, this is where it gets really tangible, isn't it? We see faith in action and the results. So first, there's this official. Matthew describes him just coming forward, kneeling right down in front of Jesus, and he says, "My daughter has just died. But come, lay your hand on her, and she will live." Just like that. Direct, hopeful.
Incredible faith, really, that this man, probably a synagogue leader, someone respected, he's facing the worst possible news. His daughter is gone. But he comes to Jesus believing he can reverse even death.
Wow.
And then, almost interwoven with that story, is the account of the woman. She's been suffering from hemorrhages for 12 years. 12 years.
Which wasn't just physically debilitating.
No, exactly. In that culture, it meant she was ritually unclean.
Yeah.
Constantly.
So isolation, too. Social, religious isolation.
Definitely. A really desperate situation. And she doesn't even approach Jesus directly, does she? She comes up behind him in the crowd, thinking to herself, almost whispering it, "If I can just touch his cloak, I'll be healed."
Such quiet faith, but so intense.
And Jesus' response in both cases is immediate and powerful.
To the woman, he turns, sees her, and says, "Courage, daughter. Your faith has saved you."
And the text says, from that hour, she was cured instantly.
Amazing. And then he gets to the official's house. There's already a commotion, people mourning, maybe even professional mourners.
Yeah, the flute players and the noisy crowd, they clearly believe it's over.
And they actually laugh at Jesus when he says,
"Go away. The girl isn't dead. She's just sleeping."
Right. They ridicule him, but he ignores them, puts them out of the room.
Takes the little girl by the hand.
And she gets up just like that.
Yeah. And it says the news of this just spread everywhere. You can imagine.
So these two stories, back to back almost, they really highlight something about faith, don't they?
They absolutely do. And that restoration and life reflection points this out very clearly. It says both the woman and the synagogue leader turn to Jesus in faith, right? But specifically in moments of desperation.
Okay.
Their belief in his power to heal, even in the face of death or chronic suffering, teaches us, as the reflection puts it, that no situation is beyond God's mercy.
That's a powerful takeaway. No situation.
Right. And it underscores that Jesus isn't just responding to some abstract idea of faith, but to their deep trust in his love.
Yeah.
It's an invitation, really, for us, for you listening, to approach him with that same kind of confidence, believing that restoration, that new life, is possible. And it perfectly illustrates that idea, often stated in Christian tradition, the Alleluia verse mentioned, that Jesus has destroyed death and brought life to light through the gospel. These aren't just words. They're shown in action.
So let's try and pull all these threads together. What does this journey mean for us now? We started with Jacob, right? His dream in the wilderness, those foundational promises. Then we saw how the Psalms kind of echo and deepen that theme of trust and refuge, especially for those suffering.
Yeah, God being close to the brokenhearted.
Exactly. And then we landed in the New Testament, seeing faith lead to direct, transformative healing and restoration.
Yeah, and across all of them, I think a really consistent message comes through, that God is near. He's not distant or uninterested, especially, it seems, when people are hurting or lost. Whether it's that huge sweeping promise to Jacob setting a whole history in motion, or the intimate comfort offered in a psalm, or Jesus physically touching someone and bringing them back to life or health, the common thread is that faith, that trust, has real efficacy. It connects us to that divine presence and power. These stories, really, they invite you to think about what happens when you face your own challenges, big or small, with that kind of confidence in something bigger than yourself. How that posture, that trust, might open doors to restoration, to new life, maybe in ways you don't expect.
It's a powerful reminder, isn't it? About belief, yes, but also about connection, about how these encounters ripple outward. So building on all that, on Jacob's awe, the psalmist's trust, the faith of that official and the woman, and the reflection tying it together. Here's something maybe to mull over as we finish. How might recognizing these enduring themes, divine presence, healing, hope, even in brokenness, how might that empower you? Empower you to respond maybe differently to moments of difficulty, whether it's your own struggle or seeing someone else go through it. Could these stories perhaps inspire a renewed sense of hope, or maybe even a new way of offering support and encouragement today? Something to think about.